Everyone, and welcome to the November 4th regular meeting of the Louis Riel School Division Board of Trustees. I would like to begin with the calling on Trustee Walker for our land acknowledgement, please.
This is my own personal land acknowledgement. I was born, work, and live on the traditional lands of the Anishinaabeg, Innuwak, and Dakota peoples on the national homeland of the Red River Métis. I also acknowledge that Manitoba is the traditional territory of the Anishinaabe and Dene peoples. I recognize and honor Shoal Lake 40 First Nation as the source of my clean drinking water, as well as the treaty territories that generate and provide electricity powering my home, school where I teach, and our school division. I respect the treaties made on this land and acknowledge the harms and mistakes of the past and present. I dedicate myself as a parent, a teacher, and a school trustee to authentic alliances with Indigenous communities in a spirit of reconciliation and cooperation. I further commit myself to helping the children in my care understand the importance of reconciliation in Indigenous communities.
Thank you very much. We have folks joining us online and in the room. We have regrets this evening from Trustee Kolachek. And I just wanted to let everybody know that we do audio record our meetings to ensure that minutes are captured accurately. There is a 15-minute period at the end of the meeting allocated for anybody in the room to ask questions of items that are on the agenda. And if you have questions unrelated, info@lrsd.net is your friend, where we will redirect your questions, concerns, and you can expect a timely response. Our vision is for members of our community to excel as caring, confident, capable, and resilient lifelong learners who contribute to a democratic and sustainable world. And our mission is to provide a safe, inclusive, and engaging environment where personal and collective learning are valued and each one of us reaches our full potential. It's a very special evening tonight because we welcome Peter Bjornson, newly elected trustee in Ward 3. And at this time, I'm going to turn things over to Secretary Treasurer Rudnicki, who is going to administer the oath of office and signing of the Code of Conduct and declarations.
Thank you very much. And so congratulations, Trustee Bjornson, on your recent election win. In accordance with our procedural bylaws, Mr. Bjornson came in the day after the election and signed off on our school board's annual code of conduct and conflict of interest, our board members' annual oath of confidentiality, as well as our board members' annual declaration of residency. So I have those signed off and witnessed in my possession as of October 28th. In conjunction with our procedural bylaws, I'll ask Trustee Bjornson to verbally attest to our annual code of conduct, conflict of interest declaration.
Board members are responsible for adhering to the policies in the board policy manual and all subsequent policy revisions of the Louis Riel School Board. Board members are responsible for preventing real or perceived conflicts of interest to protect the integrity of the Louis Riel School Division. Contravention may result in various sanctions, including public censure. School board members shall perform duties with integrity and in a way that will maintain public, constituent, and board member confidence in the Louis Riel School Division. Ensure no real or perceived advantage is taken by virtue of their position or from information obtained due to their position as a board member. And 3, immediately disclose to the chairperson of the board or to the board members at the board meeting any existing or potential conflict of interest on an issue. This disclosure will be recorded in the minutes. 4, be familiar with the sections 35, 39 of the Manitoba Public Schools Act and fulfill any obligations therein. Prior to taking the office, trustees will complete a statement disclosing assets and interests in accordance with 39.3 subsection 4, which shall remain on file with the Secretary Treasurer for the duration of the service. Additionally, in accordance with 35.1 subsection 2 part 3, trustees will complete an annual oath of confidentiality. I declare that I've read and understood and agree to adhere to this code of conduct, conflict of interest policy, and all other policies of the Louis-Riel School Board Policy Manual.
Thank you very much. And so at this time, are there any conflict of interest or perceived conflicts of interest to the Louis-Riel School Division that you would like to declare?
I am a board member of the TJ's Gift Foundation, which occasionally requests funding from the division, and I will recuse myself from such requests should they come to the table.
Thank you very much. Congratulations on your election.
Okay, now you get to engage with your technology and do all the cool trustee stuff like making sure you vote properly and things don't get away on you. Paulo and Ryan on either side can assist as needed. So just shout out if you're not sure. It takes a while to get the hang of this. Approval of the agenda and minutes. The agenda is before you for tonight. So the motion is that the agenda for the regular board meeting of November 4th be approved. I need a mover and seconder, please. Trustee Walker and Trustee Semenyola. All those in favor? Any opposed? And we are watching too online as well.
Trustee Nordheim?
Yes, it didn't click. I'm sorry.
Okay, just for the record, for some strange reason, Mia's in there. She will be removed from trustee.
Assistant Superintendent Gunther got a promotion.
From Jamie's desk.
You were secretary treasurer last meeting and now you're a trustee. You're moving on up in the world.
Bloodless coup.
Musical chairs. All right, the next item is to approve the minutes of the regular board meeting of October 21st, 2025. Those minutes were circulated in advance. There's no errors or corrections that needed to be addressed, so they will be accepted as they were distributed. The minutes of the special board meeting on October 28th, 2025 were also circulated. I wasn't made aware of any errors or omissions that needed to be dealt with, so those as well will be accepted as distributed. That takes us to LRSD News, first from the Board of Trustees and Trustee Nordheim this evening.
Good evening. Please accept my congratulations, Peter. I'm sorry I wasn't there in person, but nice to have you on board. My news from the trustees include 3 stories from the Glenlawn family of schools. First of all, Windsor School, and I believe I submitted a couple of pictures for these. Oh, and there they are. So Windsor School celebrated Diwali. They had their grade 5 and 6 students read a book about Diwali to all the early years students, and staff participated in beautiful celebratory Diwali outfits, which I think looked spectacular. Secondly, Glenwood on October 21st hosted a community building event for new teachers. 20 teachers, different stages of their careers, participated. This picture is not an example of that. That's my next story. There were a panel of 4 teachers to answer questions for brand new teachers. A teacher who taught in Ecuador, a student services teacher from Glenlawn, a Glenwood KTAP grad, and a Glenwood teacher new to the division. Despite a range of experiences, the major point from all teachers in attendance highlighted a love of students and the joy of building relationships. The new teachers were very appreciative and recognized how challenging the beginning of this career is and how much they appreciate the support that they're receiving. We had a conversation at our retreat about the need for supporting our new teachers, and this was a really good example from Glenwood School initiating that. Finally, Glenlawn Collegiate on October 21st, Glenlawn ran a fundraiser for cancer research, previously known as the Nikki Redekop volleyball tournament. This one, now it's been renamed for Volley for the Cure. Over 300 students took part in a full-day volleyball tournament, each team dressed in costumes, and over $500 was raised through participation fees. There were staff teams, and one joined in the nonsensical fun, dressing in honor of that very weird thing that's going on now, 6-7. So these guys were sick 7. Very, it was a very enthusiastic day, and lots of team spirit provided for a very good cause. So that's my news from the Glenlawn family of schools.
That's great. Thank you very much. News from the senior leadership team this evening, provided by Assistant Superintendent. Yes.
Thank you, Chair Nemeth. I'll start with a story on Island Lakes, and we have pictures as well. Through a wellness lens, Island Lakes Community School designated October as a month of gratitude. Aligned with the spirit of Thanksgiving, students were invited to reflect on the power of thankfulness. As research shows a strong connection between mental wellness and gratitude, with studies indicating regular expressions of thanks can increase happiness, reduce stress, and improve overall well-being for both children and adults. Throughout the month, classrooms explored gratitude by writing daily reflections on what they appreciate across various categories. And families were encouraged to participate as well, fostering a shared culture of thankfulness. In the photo, you'll see that the school has created a hallway of thanks. That would be on the right-hand side, especially at the top, but there's also stuff on a bulletin board. It's a vibrant visual display showcasing the many good things in our lives and reminding the community of the importance of gratitude. The next story is from Naaqua Place School, where they had the Star Dome presentation. That's not Naaqua Place School, but that is what the dome looks like. It was at Naaqua Place recently on October 27th. Grade 5 to 8 students experienced Sky Stories, an interactive Star Dome program presented by Darren Townsley. The session connected science, math, and ELA curricula with Indigenous teachings, bringing First Peoples sky stories to life through storytelling and exploration of constellations. Each grade team at Naaqua Place School integrates an Indigenous theme across the year. So for example, the grade 7-8s are focusing on Great Binding Law and land-based education, while grade 5-6s are using the star blanket as a central concept. Storytelling is woven into assemblies under the guidance of Indigenous teachers and Allies Circle, and an Indigenous grade 7-8 teacher shares stories during practical arts periods to deepen these connections. This initiative reflects the school's commitment to embedding Indigenous perspectives in learning and fostering cultural understanding. École Julie Riel photo has a middle immersion program starting in grade 4. And on the afternoon of Friday, October 31st, the grade 4, 5, and 6 middle immersion classes came together to celebrate the fall harvest. Students feasted upon a vegetable wild rice soup made by their teachers with ingredients inspired by First Nations and vegetables harvested in Manitoba. Students made individual portions of bannock and garnished them with maple syrup and wild blueberry and raspberry sauces, which an activity that brought the École Julie Riel Middle Immersion family together and was a way to show appreciation for the wonderful produce our province has to offer. And finally, we have from Sage Creek School, the Socktober campaign. Sage Creek School demonstrates incredible generosity during its Socktober campaign, collecting over 3,000 pairs of socks for the Main Street Project. This initiative was led by educators Catherine Hewitt and Ashley Bazet, whose leadership inspired students, staff, and families to come together in support of those in need. The campaign reflects the school's commitment to fostering compassion and community, showing that education is not only about learning, but also about caring. And that's the news for today from the CJS and Bruns Families of Schools.
That's great. Thank you. Thank you. And thank you, Trustee Nordheim, for starting things off in a nice positive way. There's no shortage of good things happening in Louis-Riel for sure. That takes us to board education, and this particular item here is just a bit of a reflection about a full day retreat that the board engaged in along with the senior leadership team on October 28th. For our community to be aware, this was a focused and dedicated day of professional learning and opportunity to engage at a deeper level again with our multi-year strategic plan. We took a look at the pillars, the strategic pillars, and had some really good conversations, small group and large group, about where we were going as we head into the final year of the plan next year. And in the afternoon, we had a facilitator from the Manitoba School Boards Association who reminded us of the role of a trustee and its importance as we continue to strive to be governance leaders and a high functioning school board. And so that was done strategically to welcome a new colleague to the board table as Peter learns the ropes, so to speak, but also for us to reaffirm as a group the important work that we do in service to public education. Trustees, anything that you would like to add about this particular day, takeaways that you had, or anything you felt that I missed that you would like to make sure is captured? Okay. Trustee Samayola?
Yeah, I think it was, we have obviously a functioning and robust multi-year strategic plan by coming together and picking out a lot of what's important to us, and just also having the senior leadership stake as well, like kind of puts our priority as a trustee, but also the group that's working to execute this, the board's multi-year strategic plan, sharing their thoughts about what our priorities are, but then quite frankly, pointing out some of the items that are either already being executed or already in plans of being executed within what's being shared on the website and some of the work that's being done. I thought that was a really fun exercise to get the group together and get some of that sharing, minds on different things.
Yeah.
So that was really positive, and it was great to be there with everybody and go through those exercises.
Thank you. Anyone else? All right, moving on to chair information. There's a couple of things here, starting with the Manitoba School Boards Association Region 5-6 meeting that just took place this past Saturday. Folks may or may not remember that this board had agreed to take 4 resolutions to the Region 5 and 6 meeting, which is all of the Metro boards for consideration for carrying over to convention in March. The comprehensive review of the Public Schools Act period, review of partnerships, guide for parents and school committees, that will also advance. Traffic safety in school zones will advance to convention, while the residential streets default speed limit resolution was defeated. I do want to extend congratulations to Trustee Samayola, who was uncontested in maintaining the seat on the Must Fund. Your expertise in the short time you've been there has been duly noted. So thank you very much for taking on that important work in service to the Region 5 boards. This meeting was an opportunity as part of our strategic planning and our budgeting, if you will, to receive an update on the financials from our president, to take a look at where we are in our strategic plan. And our executive director, Josh Watt, spent some time focused on the Indigenous Education Action Plan and the work that MSBA is doing. So again, there were a number of you in the room that were there. If there's anything that you want to share, by all means. Any takeaways? Trustee Palmquist.
Just wanted to give I was pleased that the resolution concerning MSBA resolution concerning provincial and municipal cooperation with divisions on safety was adopted, and looking forward to continuing to speak for that at MSBA, and wanted to give a particular, in addition to thank you to the whole board for supporting that resolution, I wanted to give a particular thank you to Trustee Nordheim for her guidance in me developing that and submitting it to the Region 5 process, which I had never done before. So thank you, Irene, and thank you to everyone, and I look forward to continuing to engage on this topic.
Just for the folks in the room who I probably could have done a better job of explaining the resolution process. So all of the regions, there are 6 in the province, resolutions are developed at the board tables. They are advanced by board motion. So this particular board a number of weeks ago voted to advance 4 resolutions that were developed by individual trustees but were adopted by the board. In March of next year, they will be voted on by the entirety of the membership, so all the boards that are in the province. So that's what that process looks like. Trustee Sigurdsson?
Yeah, I just wanted to say how pleased I was with the morning session on the Indigenous education, all the work that's going on in that regard. It was good to have an update. I know we do a lot here around our table and in our board, but good to see and good to be aware and to be reminded of the work that's also being done on the provincial level by our governing body. So thank you for that.
Thank you. Anyone else? All right, the next item 6.2 is a nod to Jordan Faulkner, who's principal at HS Paul School. I think there's a picture attached to this item. Was recently awarded Administrator of the Year by the Manitoba Band Association. And I didn't even know that particular award existed until I saw this on, I believe it was on Instagram. So congratulations to Mr. Faulkner. That's quite a accomplishment, and especially when you consider the importance of music education to our students. Item 6.3 is partnering with the St. Vital Museum. So trustees will see a letter that I received from John Hindle inviting us to come as a group during the day or one evening for a behind the scenes exclusive tour of the St. Vital Museum. This letter is also received in correspondence, but I just wanted to make sure that it was highlighted in public. This is an important and evolving partnership with the St. Vital Museum. It's a great opportunity for our students to learn about the history of the areas that they are growing up in and going to school. And so we will try and arrange something with that group and organize trustee calendars so that we can, even if we have to do it in a couple of groups, he's also offered to accommodate trustees on their own if we can't make a group tour work. So we will open up calendars at some point and get something organized. And of course, the senior team was included in that invitation. So it will be maybe a big field trip for all of us. And finally, item 6.4, earlier this evening, we fortunate Councillors Marcus Chambers, Matt Allard, and Brian Mays, who has stuck around for the meeting this evening, yay, joined us for a conversation where we had a bit of dialogue on some ongoing and emerging issues and opportunities in Louis Riel School Division. We talked about the plan to develop the field that sits between Palais Jean Sauvé and Dakota Community Center. We talked about the ongoing challenges of the City of Winnipeg transit rollout and how we might be able to collaborate and certainly continue to talk about perhaps minor or wholesale larger changes that will be needed to make some of our families a little happier and make that commute to school a little easier for some students. There was good conversation about safe and active transportation, and both trustees Walker and Conquest were able to inform that conversation. And then we talked about the land that we have recently acquired south of the Perimeter Highway on St. Mary's Road that is going to be a very large new transportation hub for us, as well as a space for Indigenous learning and knowing, and also just a place for our students and our staff to go and get out of the city and just be surrounded by what is going to be a beautiful area for contemplation and just some peace at the same time. So trustees, anything on the conversation with city councillors that you would like to highlight or that I missed? By all means, Trustee Palmquist.
Credit goes to Councillor Mays for sticking around for the regular meeting, which no one ever does. And so you are in a very prestigious club. Thank you.
Yeah, that might be city council that's ever attended a board meeting to my way of, I don't know.
I was there when you and Chris were sworn in, so if that counts.
Yeah, but you didn't stay for the whole meeting as I recall.
That's probably true.
So, I'm giving you props, so take them.
Thank you.
Now you're obligated to stay till the end. All right, that takes us to item 7, senior leadership team information to the board, starting with capital projects and to the superintendent.
So the documents we provided that we can open for the public in attendance here in the room and online. The first one is speaking to important changes the city is making to Hastings schools, Hastings School, relative to making the school safer for active transportation. And the second document we provided trustees is an update on all of the provincially funded projects in progress. And so you have, for example, Island Lakes Community School that we're prepping for 2 more modular classrooms for a total of 6. We have J.H. Bruns Collegiate, an RFP pending for a tender-ready design for the addition and renovations we've been asking for some time. We have Shamrock School's building envelope underway, boiler replacements. We have planning and design development for the St. Mary's Road property we purchased over the summer. For the Therapeutic Learning Center in this building, that is running. The École Houghton kindergarten renovations, an air conditioning retrofit for Glenwood School that's being planned. The École Provencher air conditioning installation is being finalized. And so that school will have air conditioning starting in the spring of 26. Many concept plans for lots of improvements in schools and lots of construction going on. So I encourage you to, as always, visit our schools and see all the good work that's underway. Trustees have any questions? We're here to do the best we can to answer.
Trustee Palmquist?
Jamie,
Jamie, you wanted to add?
Yeah, just a point of clarification, number 6 and number 7, St. Mary's Road, as well as the Therapeutic Learning Center are not provincially funded. They should be provincially funded.
That's correct. Thank you for catching that, Jamie.
actually a couple things, one on the Hastings thing, or 2 on the Hastings, 1 on the capital projects report. Wanted to commend and thank the city for working with the school administration. Hope that we can build off of that type of one-on direct school administration municipal relationship to create what I was talking about earlier and we've been talking about for a while of a formal structure for collaboration. I wanted to feel I should mention that these changes very sensible, but I feel bad in a way for the city in the sense of when they have to adjust parking changes, no stopping, no parking. Seen many such tweaks and adjustments at many schools over the years. All of them are responses to the root problem, and I feel like it just in these situations it warrants saying the root of the problem is that no matter how many signs you put up or where you tell people to go or not, there are simply too many people coming into too small of an area in too short of a time, and there will never be, no matter how many adjustments you make, it will never be fully safe. And it underscores the importance of item 4.2 of the strategic plan. Reducing the overwhelming percentage of parents that feel they have no option but to take their kids to school by vehicle is at the root of the problem. And so hope that we can move to a day where we actually do have more open and liberal interpretations of parking rules, because they're just not very chaotic environments like they are now. A second quick, just wanted to note, because we are talking about this school, I felt it be worthy to point out that this location, you may not know it if you're not a cyclist, but this Hastings back lane and bus loop is a very important cycling connection in St. Vital. If you're coming south off of Dunkirk and you want to proceed through the Pulbury area or head towards Abinogi, the crosswalk at Hastings and Dunkirk, and then cutting through the bus loop, sort of back lane, Weaver Bay, is the the best and really only major safe point of crossing between St. Mary's Road and St. Mattel Road. And it's a very popular one. And maybe I wonder if in the long run, we might have an opportunity to collaborate with the city on making utilization of that back lane and bus drop-off lane on weekends and that sort of thing. Well, the second thing I wanted to bring up on the capital projects report was these are all excellent projects and I commend everyone who was involved in them. I did want to ask, would I be correct that École Saint-Germain was one of the schools that previously had a heat pump that is now a boiler school, or the heat pump failed, or it wasn't, I heard that École Saint-Germain used to have a geothermal heat pump?
Yeah, I believe that's accurate. I can provide you more detailed information about those older systems dating back to the 80s in many of those schools. Yeah. That part of Saint Vital and the struggle we're having, because here it's a partnership with government. We don't call the shots alone. And so the struggle we're having, making the case for geothermal.
Yeah, agreed. And so understanding the school does need to be heated and pump had failed and government isn't there to support a repair or replacement of that. That is an unfortunate but unavoidable fact for this division. I hope that at some point in the future, we can have a conversation about the heating and cooling picture in divisions for especially looking forward for capital projects, and maybe discuss how trustees can work with in their political capacity on that file with government.
And to support you on that, just to reiterate, we, again, as part of our strategic plan, we are always drawing attention to the need for technologies that are responding to the need to address the climate crisis. And so we are always promoting the photovoltaic on our rooftops, geothermal, and thinking about heating and cooling our schools, electrifying our bus fleet, just to be clear, on all those and many other fronts we're advocating.
Thank you.
Trustee Bjornson, then trustee Seminola.
I was just curious, when I look at the divisionally funded projects, could we get a breakdown of what was scheduled maintenance versus what was emergent?
Yes, we can make that available.
Curious to see that as part of the report and the implications for the budget, scheduled versus emergent responses.
For sure.
That's something that we get anyways, right? As part of our.
That's something we have,
Yeah.
we can readily make a part of these monthly reports that we provide.
Trustee Seminola?
Yeah, I'd say it's good to see provincial air conditioning here. I know we've voted for this during budget, that there was an equity piece, and I'm happy to see that provision will be taking place before the heat actually takes place in May and June. Is there anything to share on the budget side? Because obviously when we went through this looking at how much this is going to cost. We know we are on time. Budget wise, are we going to be over budget? Are we
all within budget?
Within budget?
All within budget, but we could provide those details if you'd like.
Enough that we can replace one that was a little bit cheaper with the extra? Jim, you don't have to answer that.
I don't think he was going to. Trustee Sigurdsson.
Yeah, you might not be able to answer this, but about the Marian Gabari heating and ventilation upgrade. I see that the boilers are there, but there's also ventilation upgrades. I understand MAG is one of the schools that's lucky enough to have air conditioning, but I also understand from voices of parents that it's maybe not the most effective air conditioning system in the world. Will the ventilation upgrades improve that in any way?
That's my understanding, but I will make sure to confirm that.
Yeah, that's good to know. Thank you.
Anything else on this item? That takes us to 7.2 K-12 framework for continuous improvements.
Yes, so every year for as long as I've been in the board office, that would be 2005. At the end of October, we provide the province with a report of how the school year has gone, the previous school year played out. And it used to be in the form of spreadsheets. And it wasn't always called a continuous improvement report, but how we report back to the province now is essentially we point that department to many sources of information that are readily available to staff and community. And so you can see in the correspondence that's attached to the item that you had the chance to read in preparation for this meeting that, of course, we point to a multi-year strategic plan. Not all school divisions have a multi-year strategic plan because it's not an obligation in the province of Manitoba that the planning be multi-year. Relative to that multi-year strategic plan, I'm really happy with the ongoing refinements we're reporting back to the committee we serve. So we point to the website and we continue to refine those pages that show the community what we've achieved relative to a strategic action and what we are working on to achieve going forward. As we mentioned earlier, we're at the midway point of our multi-year strategic plan. And then we point to a data hub, a public-facing data hub that again provides lots of information to the community, enrollment information, demographic information, information about student achievement, how students are self-reporting, their social and emotional well-being, attendance. And one of our latest reports was the impact of Universal Full Day K in its inaugural year of implementation. And we just continue to expand on that data hub, and we'll talk more about it. Some of the reporting that we don't make public is of a very sensitive nature. And in the letter that you read, there's mention of that very sensitive information that we're mindful of sharing publicly because of how one might interpret that information. So it isn't easy information to receive because it speaks to academic achievement and attendance data, that self-reported student well-being data I mentioned, specifically around feelings of anxiety and depression. And what it's showing us is a consistent gap and a growing gap between students who self-declare as Indigenous and non-Indigenous students. And of course, this isn't unique to us. When I look at the literature coming from international sources and Canadian sources, when I talk to colleagues across the city, province, and country, and even on occasion other parts of the world, we're all living a similar truth. Now, the reason we're very, very mindful of when thinking of sharing these realities publicly, I'm doing this evening. What we want to be clear about is that our understanding of the information, of the lived experience, is that students are to blame here. It isn't about students and abilities or aptitudes. The reason for the gap is about our system. Our system's responsibility to students and a responsibility to remove barriers, to cultivate strengths, the strengths that are innate in all children, and to refine our practices. So as I've been sharing this data as I do every year, with staff, and many of you have been there to hear me say this before. For me, it's about this information is about each of us reflecting about how we are walking alongside children in our care, and how our responsibility, each of us, is to ensure every student feels they belong. Every student sees us showing them for the brilliance they bring, and ensuring that everyone's journey is a journey of flourishing. And I really do believe that we can turn this around, that over the course of the next half of our multi-year strategic plan, that I believe in very much, that it really is a commitment from moving from words to deeds in each of our classrooms and hallways and schoolyards. We could be reporting back to all of you on an evening like this one, that the gaps are narrowing. We're turning things around. Thank you.
Thank you. Trustees, any questions on this item? Trustee Bjornson?
Well, as the newbie, I'm curious, how long has this data collection been going on, and particularly when you talk about belonging and bullying, have we seen positive trends? Then was the COVID, was it because of COVID that we see negative trends, or is it something that's been consistent over time when it comes to a sense of belonging, or when it comes to bullying? We have data for years, or is this a relatively new practice of?
No, so I've been on a data journey with the school division since being at the board office. I was on a data journey principal before then, and a teacher, but we've gone from spreadsheets and pivot tables in a spreadsheet to the tools we have today, and so it definitely looks far more refined today than it did long ago. So now when you look at the data on the data hubs, we do show some history, right? So we do show trends. So if I'm talking about gaps and persistent gaps and growing gaps, I'm looking at trends over time. And we indeed have seen we are seeing the impact of the pandemic continue to be a concern, but we are starting to turn things. So I point in the report to how attendance is improving. So that's one area of improvement, and I'm grateful that it is, because it's one of the keys to turning things around relative to academic achievement and social and emotional belonging in schools.
Thanks for the question. Anyone else? Thank you for that. Item 7.3, the 5th annual data analytics for the public sector summit, GAPS.
Yes, so a few of us had the chance to attend this annual data analytics conference specific for the public sector. It was in Toronto last month, and so it was a great opportunity for myself, and I'll have other colleagues share their experience, to hear how public sector organizations across Canada are using data and AI to improve services and decision making. For me, one of the standout insights came from Brandon Lee at Global Affairs Canada, who was one of the keynotes. He said, data is no longer a back office function, it's the backbone of public trust and impact. So he shared the story of how data and AI are helping this federal agency to make better decisions relative to the billions they invest internationally. And And so for me, that captured the tone of the summit. Day one was focused on this big picture of how data can help drive transparency, better outcomes, a smarter use of resources. Day two was more about the nuts and bolts, how organizations are building that data literacy, managing information across systems, departments, and throughout the province, how they're leveraging AI to help collect the data, organize the data, make sense of the data, and of course, doing so responsibly and ethically. That was the essence of the message when thinking of artificial intelligence. So for me, it reinforced the importance of this journey I've been on for a very long time, and that it really isn't about tools and systems, or just about tools and systems. It really is about people and culture. So I'll hand it over to my colleagues to share their thoughts and experiences.
Yeah, so my big takeaway from the sessions was how data is siloed, not only within Louisville School Division, but in similar organizations across Canada. And a lot of it has to do with the notion that data is kept in departmental ways and used for information and decision making, and how, as an organization, we need to break down and collaborate those silos. And so talking about strategies for breaking down those barriers and to information share and data share, so that we can bring all the data from all parts of the organization to make more fulsome and effective decisions.
Sure. So I also had the privilege of attending the summit, and probably my key takeaway was that in an age of AI and the interest in running at full speed with AI, we need to be careful. We need to take a step back and consider the cleanliness of our data, how our data is organized, and that clean and organized data is the backbone of AI. So it just reiterates the need to do what we've been doing and keep at it. And this was an opportunity as well to, although I think most school divisions are jumping into how do we use AI in the classroom, I think we are on a journey to as well think about how we can leverage AI at the system level to support our organizational functions. And I think that's a pretty unique approach compared to other divisions that I've heard from. And so that's probably my biggest takeaway. I don't know if Jeff, you have anything else?
Yeah, I would share that I was very excited to see what other organizations are doing, and grateful that we have been on a data literacy journey in the school division for some time. We have across our system very solid level of ability to gather and analyze data and to use the data to inform decision making. This is present in the classroom level and in our business operations as well. So really, when I hear about other places that are getting very pumped about AI and jumping on the AI bandwagon, and knowing that we have building blocks in place around data literacy is very reassuring. One of the pieces that Marnie was talking about in terms of ensuring our data cleanliness, integrity, one of the speakers compared our data systems to a hospital. And just like you can't shut down the hospital to renovate it, you have to very strategically take non-critical sections first and have backup plans and contingency measures. And everything that we do with data needs to be done in live operation. And just hearing that analogy to a hospital made a whole lot of sense to me. I greatly appreciate the connections that we were able to make.
I think it's, everybody said everything. It's good.
Any questions, trustees? This one? Trustee Simonyola?
Maybe this might not be related, but I understand it's might have been focused solely on data analytics. Was there any anything that might have popped out on risk of having all this data, whether it's on the server or on the cloud, or any potential liability that comes with any of this? Because I know, I mean, we started the year or ended the year with some concerns that was there anything related to AI or data analytics regarding risk?
No, that's our Director of Information Systems. Yeah, so I guess it depends on when you mention risk, are you meaning about data security risk?
Yeah, there's data security risk, there's risk of machine learning. If the machine learning integrity is not there, it could ultimately be having an output that's against what you wanted to spit out. But if it's already learned, it's tough to correct if it's in the wrong way. So like anything around that nature?
Yes, for sure. So on the data security side, so I mean, there is this the best security that we have right now is to get our data into the cloud. Actually, they are the experts. Keeping all your data in-house, you are really putting your eggs in one basket, and that is probably the biggest liability that you have. So that's why having it in the cloud with all of the tools they have that you can apply on top of that really keeps you the most secure from a security aspect. And then we are with Microsoft, and we pay for that security, and it's a good investment. With regards to the AI security, absolutely, that was definitely a theme in there that was mentioned over and over and over again. The idea of this doesn't mean that you're handing, it's not a magic button or a magic pill. You're not handing over the key to the decision making or the critical thinking. Like, this all requires, in fact, a higher level of critical thinking now, because you are asking these important questions and you're able to comb through all the data to get insights into what the data is telling you. But at the same time, you have to be the experts of that data, so data literacy, so that you understand and that you can think critically and say, okay, before we act on this, we have to ensure that what we're seeing is accurate. And that goes back to what Marnie is talking about, but you have to have your data in order in order to have the AI digest it and give back something that's in any way accurate to what you have. And so that has been a huge bit of our work, is getting that data in order so that we know that what we're getting out of any analysis we get from AI has a higher level of log, or the integrity is much higher, but it is still not a hands-off. And so it leads to the next point where Marnie and I went to work with Google the next days, but we can speak to more of that. But yes, it is high on our priority to make sure that what we're getting out is valid and accurate, so that we are acting in the right manner. For sure.
Anything else on this one? All right, perfect segue into working with Google.
Yeah, so thank you. So that was, you asked for a better segue. So while we were there, so the conference was Tuesday and Wednesday, and then Marnie and I and others have been doing some work with Google, and which is a bit of a interesting mix for us, because we are a Microsoft shop. The tattoos aren't permanent, thank goodness. But so to say that we're working with Google might seem odd, because we don't have a lot of interactions with them day to day. But ironically, when it comes to looking at data and data analytics and machine learning and all that, like, all of these major companies have different partnerships, and we are obviously a big Microsoft partnership, but Google was the one that was saying, hey, we'd like to work with you. And so we want to be agnostic in as many ways. We thought, if we have someone willing who wants to consider working with us, then we're going to take them up on that offer. So over a year ago, we started a pilot project with. And the project was really about, we have all this data. We have over 10 years of student data. And we talked to Google about what could we do with this data so that we're being a little more proactive. And is there anything that we could look at that's predictive? Could we create almost like a student at-risk safety net, an early warning system that based on certain parameters that we could help identify students that were at risk before it was too late. And it was a wonderment. And even Google said, I don't know. We've never done this before. And so they were also eager to go down that journey with us. And so we anonymized the data. So what that means is the data was now scrubbed of student names, student numbers, but it wasn't scrambled. It was still kept intact, but it was anonymized. And so that we could felt, as we were beginning this relationship with them. And we handed it over to them, and then they brought in another company called Improving. They're quite global. And we got access to a whole bunch of data scientists. And they put it into BigQuery, which is a machine learning. So it's not quite AI yet. It's AI-esque, but it's like this data science has been around for generations. And they put it through trained algorithms to see, and Marty's gonna touch this a bit more, but we looked at grade 9 and basically English and math for grade 9. And because that isn't, if students fail those two courses, it's an outlier to, they're gonna have trouble all the way through the rest of their school career. And so if we could look at the data behind those grades, grade 8 and back, and not just academics, learning behaviors, attendance, and we can add more later to see, could the machine learning pull out any outliers, find the signal that's in there that could help us to target specific students, to intervene quickly. We don't wait until that first or second report card and then it's almost too late to intervene. And so it's been about a year, and we went to Google headquarters, which was beautiful, by the way, I must say. It was a very interesting building. And to sit down with the data scientists for 2 days. And they were able to, they gave us the results of the model, but we wanted to really go under the hood and truly understand what this is saying, so that we could then maybe take the next steps, which I want to pass over to Lauren.
Yeah, so I guess what we can share at this point in this pilot project, this exploratory journey, is that we were pretty successful in creating a predictive model using machine learning, meaning that we trained the model on a few years of data, and then we took what we created and tested it against last year's semester 1 results to see if the model was able to predict students at risk. And we did a lot of conversation back and forth with the data scientists about what would we define as students at risk. And we decided we wanted to know if we could predict students who would attain below a 60% in their final marks, thinking that that would be a student that we would be concerned about, or that might be on a path to not graduating on time or within 4 years. And so in terms of the accuracy of the model in the end, with that one group of students, we were able to predict 83% with 83% accuracy, grade 9 math students who would be at risk. So 4 out of 5 students, and with 75% accuracy with grade 9 ELA marks. So this was considered by the scientists to be quite a success. And then the model, more interestingly perhaps, was able to provide contextual insights into the factors that drove those predictions. So what were the factors that were the biggest drivers or biggest predictors of whether a student would struggle in grade 9 math? And from our exploration so far, there are a lot of obvious predictors, and there are some that surprised us a little bit. But we're still at that exploration phase, and we're taking this very carefully and slowly. And we still have more learning to do. So in terms of our next steps with Google and improving is now that we have, we're going to call it the beginnings of a predictive model. We want to add some more new data, some more current student data to better refine it, to see if we can keep up our accuracy of predicting at-risk students. We want to work with improving to learn a little bit more about how they're training the model so that we get a better understanding of it. Once they pass it off to us, we want to understand how we might keep training the model, because this is learning I've done in the last year. You train a model and you keep training the model. So we need to learn a little bit more about that. And perhaps then take this improved model that we hope we'll get and engage with SLT and school leaders to see how potentially we can use this in the future. So those are sort of the results of that project. However, I did want to mention as well that because we sat down in person with these people, these experts for 2 days, we got some added benefits in that collaboration that we didn't maybe expect going in. So during those meetings, the conversation naturally started veering towards scaling our data services in Louis Riel School Division. And we started learning about industry best practices around that, about, how do you do things better and more efficiently when you're trying to work with data larger enterprise. And we learned a lot about creating a semantic layer. So when you were asking about, taking our data and putting AI onto it, we need to create sort of a layer that adds the ability for us to ask questions of the data using regular language. So in other words, wouldn't it be interesting, instead of having to go to our Power BI reports and clicking around, wouldn't it be interesting if a school leader could just go in and say, can you tell me what are my greatest areas of need in literacy? Or has there been an improvement in writing after the last 2 years? But could just ask those questions of the data and get a response. So there's a whole layer that has to happen on our data in order to make that possible. And so we're starting to learn about those insights and potential tools for helping us grow in this area. So that's our report about those 2 days.
Thank you. Oh my, so many questions. Folks, any questions on this particular item? Trustees, I should say. Trustee Semenyola?
Yeah, I do have maybe 2 or 3 questions. Without knowing what I think this is grade 9 that we're using, without knowing what the sample size or the exact assumptions we're putting in there. I think we've talked about other factors such as, neighborhood or whatever's happening at home that we don't know about. Like how are some of those factors going to be put in there to really make this data capture everything? I'm having a little bit of trouble understanding that piece, especially if we're trying to use this as a predictor or catch an issue earlier using machines.
Mm-hmm. Well, I guess I would say to that we can only work with the data that we have, or that we have access to, or that we're allowed to collect. Our question was actually to explore whether the data that's readily available to us and to all educators in Manitoba, whether that could be predictive in and of itself. So that was really our starting question. So I don't know if that answers your question, but I don't know that we will be able to capture all of the factors, because of course we don't keep data on all of those factors. And of course, as Clark was alluding to about the last item, the human oversight is not removed from these predictive models for sure. So I don't know if you have anything to add to that.
Well, just to say, like, Google's not kicking in any of their data. Like, that's not what this relationship is. That's not what this is. It's our data. It's only our data that we capture, and we're using Google as a service from their data scientists kind of thing, we're not using them we're using their data to help unearth any mysterious magic. That's not what this is about.
Okay. No, that's good. Thanks for clarifying.
Yeah, for sure.
I guess the other thing, I think that this is very innovative in terms of using current technology that's out there. I just wonder if this is now available, how much is it going to take away from our regular assessment of knowing within the first 2 months of somebody in grade 5 that in grade 6 is gonna be really difficult for them because of that either reading level or the work not just being done at all, required reading or whatever. Like how much is reliance on something like this going to take away from that, or is it gonna work in conjunction?
Yeah, it's the opposite. It will actually show where the deficiencies are so that we can actually fine tune the interventions so that we're not just doing this like a wide spectrum interventions. We're being more surgical and saying, this is where we need to focus. And it's also student based. So it's not a one size fit all. Again, if we're successful here, it should inform where are the deficits and where should I then intervene in which specific area so that I'm being much more, it's about efficiency. So I'm being much more efficient in my teaching so that I know this is where I need to focus.
Yeah, I know.
It's the exact opposite actually.
Okay. Yeah, and I think for me, what I'm saying is just, I hope it doesn't, I mean, we've been talking here about assessment and grading, what feedback we're giving back, how we're giving it back, percentage and some sort of wording. I was hoping, like, I think all this time, all these grades or homework or exercises to determine where somebody is, but if you're saying it's gonna work together and not replace, I think that's the point.
It's using the data, it's using all the practice that we currently have, like, it's the mental report card data that and all the evaluation that is gathered in that effort to produce that report card. So nothing's changing, nothing is like, it's not doing anything standardized, like if that's what you're worried about.
Okay.
If I'm understanding your.
Yeah, my last question is probably more commercial than anything. Obviously, Google has their own bandwidth that they do offer, and then we have this relationship with Microsoft. Are we gonna have to use both if this goes through?
Yeah.
Or is it potential violation of what kind?
No, it's going to be definitely, it's going to become more of a hybrid. So the Google work would be very, very targeted, very specific. Or like the Microsoft agreement we have is vast. It covers, like, it's running everything, like this meeting, everything. Versus this is a very specific data set, a very specific resources that we would have to subscribe to use. So it would be at additional cost, but it would be, minor.
Okay.
Thank you for the questions. Any other questions on this item? Okay, I'm sure we'll be talking more about this. Thank you very much for bringing your perspective and the information to the board. Item 7.5 is School of Choice reports for this year through the superintendent to Assistant Superintendent Anderson.
Thank you. So the Schools of Choice program, as you know, is a provincial initiative that has been in place for more than 20 years now. And essentially it is conceived so that parents can access schools that better meet their families' needs. Perhaps it's related to childcare or availability of a specialized program, that sort of thing. And the provincial expectation is that schools will approve schools of choice applications unless there is not space available in the building or unless some other factors met. So it is certainly the motto of the program is approve if you can improve. So the application window opens February 1st and closes on May 15th. And the way that we approach this, and we have all of our school principals come together to consider applications because often if one school is approving some students to move out, that creates space at their school that they can allow someone else in. And these meetings work very efficiently, having everyone on site to facilitate those domino effect conversations. So in 25-26, we received a total of 683 schools of choice applications. This is an increase, an important increase over last year. Of those 683 applications, 411 were accommodated, 205 were not accommodated, and 64 were canceled. There are 3 applications outstanding at this point, one that came in last week and 2 that are for second semester. Of the 683 applications, 146 were received from students residing outside of the division. Out of those 146, 60 were accommodated, 74 were not accommodated, and 11 were canceled. And 1 application remains pending. In the report, you have summarized for you the numbers of applications that were made to each of our schools and what the outcome of the application process was. And I wanted to draw to your attention the limitations that the board had placed on the schools of choice process in several of our schools that have very limited space. So at the February 4th board meeting, the board approved a motion to limit schools of choice applications at 10 different schools. And in the report, you can see the numbers of applications that did wind up being approved or extenuating circumstances at those schools. And that, of course, was a provision that you had passed in your motion that while space is at a premium in some of these buildings, exigent circumstances may compel us to consider the acceptance of a student at one school or another. In terms of reasons for approving these applications, at the elementary level, the most important consideration was access to childcare. And at the high school level, it was access to specialized programs such as advanced placement or so that is in a snapshot, schools of choice for 2026.
Thank you. Steve, any questions? Trustee Palmquist.
Just quick clarification, under accommodated DSFM in catchment, is that a student who was at a DSFM elementary, junior high, and then proceeded to an LRSD high school?
It could be LRSD high school, it could be an LRSD elementary, but a student who was enrolled in DSFM residing in LRSD catchment and who opted to move school divisions.
Any other questions? Okay. Very much. Accessibility plan updates. We will stay with you.
The school division is currently working to update its accessibility plan and associated practices to ensure compliance with the Accessible Employment Standard regulation. You may have noticed, those of you that check out job postings on a regular basis, there is some new language that appears on job postings that has to do exactly with this very topic of accessible employment. And it speaks to offering candidates the opportunity to make known accommodations that need to be made. For example, during the interview process, they needed to be in a wheelchair accessible venue, among other examples. So you can expect an administrative protocol to be coming to you for information in the very near future, and it will summarize the practices that Louis-Riel has had in place for many years, but putting them together in one administrative protocol that will meet the requirements of the standard regulation.
Thank you. Questions on this item? All right, that takes us to 7.7, to Assistant Superintendent Cadet, supporting the right to read in Manitoba.
Thank you. It's my pleasure to speak to the Manitoba Human Rights Commission's Right to Read report that was released last Thursday. In it, the Human Rights Commission conducted a study just to see how students with learning needs are supported in Manitoba schools. And it made many recommendations for things that we can do as a system across the province in various sectors, including in the school divisions, schools themselves, and of course in the teacher preparation programs, in order to be better prepared to support the needs of the wide variety of learners that come into our classrooms. It was quite an honor to see L'Oreal's work identified in that document as one of 2 school divisions specifically identified as having practices in place that already are in close alignment with the recommendations. We are also the only Metro school division that's in that list as well. So it certainly was humbling to see that, but certainly is a recognition of the tremendous work that the teams in this school division have invested, the efforts that have been put into it in terms of transforming literacy, screening, and implementing instructional practices that are aligned with research. Among the recommendations included many connections to our multi-year strategic plan. There are many parts of it that are closely aligned with the recommendations, ensuring that all students have access to their right to read. And 2.3 is the obvious one, of course, with focusing on universal screening, but there's also mention of full day kindergarten, and specifically citing L'Oreal as an example where that has been implemented as a means of equity and access for all students. It talked about implementing universal early screening, which we've had in place now for, this is our 5th year, ongoing progress monitoring, which we also have, a robust data collection, comprehensive job, on-the-job professional development, which is a thing that we've been implementing over several years as well. The part that I think is most important, it talked about working with experts and recommending that people consult outside of their own of influence and knowledge. And that's something that we've tried to model all along in partnering, not just with teachers within our system, but also with all of our clinicians. And then moving outside and partnering up with the university researchers that we've partnered with in Toronto and in Montreal in particular, that have really been a significant support in guiding us along the path. And it also talked about the structured and systemic approaches to instruction that we advocate for. And a piece that's often forgotten is accommodation for students with learning disabilities and assistive technology. And if you'll recall, back several years ago, we were featured by Microsoft as a leader in this field as well, where we were one of the first to provide a systematic approach to providing students with learning disabilities with assistive technologies. So it's a very comprehensive approach to doing literacy instruction and understanding to the responsibility we have to meet the needs of students with learning disabilities. It talked about using evidence-based interventions, so we continue to refine our practices in that area, and addressing other issues, including things like absenteeism, and encouraging Meikle to explore all day, everyday kindergarten for all students across the province. And so lots of things have been recommended, lots of things have been implemented on our end of it here. We are in the implementation phase as a school division. We have a long journey to go on. I would love to say that all of these recommendations are evident in every classroom and every school in the division, but that would be unrealistic. It is a lot of work to do and a lot of learning to do, but I believe we have set a foundation as a system that encompasses the best practices and has set a strong support system for our staff to do the learning that is required in order to be the best that we can be for the students who need us the most. And then in phase 2 of this report, they've broken this into 2 phases. They're going to explore other areas, which includes how we can teach Indigenous languages and in both orally and in writing. So they're reading done in Indigenous languages. And it talks also about French immersion programming in particular. So I expect that we'll have more to say on those areas as well, as we have a lot of different practices that have been implemented in those areas in the last several years. So basically, we are well positioned with the recommendations that have been implemented. And I'm also pleased to say that today, Bill 225 was successfully passed in the legislature unanimously, if I'm not mistaken. And it does enshrine the idea of universal screening K-4 into law, and does make some amendments based on the initial draft of the bill that are also helpful in helping us to communicate to parents the results of those screening results. So thank you so much for allowing me to speak to the committee that was looking at that bill. It was a privilege for me to do that. And I am very pleased with the outcome of that vote today. And certainly we're very well served by the conclusions reached by the Manitoba Race Commission in their report.
Any questions, Trustee Walker?
Just
A comment. I attended the Manitoba Human Rights Commission report unveiling on Thursday night, and they really did commend our school division on the work we're doing, the work that Ron's doing. I really think that we should all feel very proud of that we're leading evidence-based literacy instruction in the province of Manitoba. I think that students across the province are going to benefit from the work that we're doing. Thanks again, Ron, for all of your work. And I was also very pleased to see Bill 2.5 pass today. That was it's not unusual for governments to support private members' bills from other parties. And it's really refreshing to see bipartisan support for our kids.
Anybody else on this one? I know you don't do the work for the recognition, but thank you very much. It's certainly having an impact on the work we offer, which we are very grateful. We're happy to support that. And how nice for our kids and their families that that work is being done. So it's appreciated. Okay, we have one policy item to work through, policy GBEB first reading, and I will turn it to Assistant Superintendent Anderson to set us up.
Yes, the Manitoba government has adopted changes to the Public Schools Act that require every school board to establish and implement a written policy respecting appropriate and inappropriate interactions between pupils and staff. The policy must address training, identification, prevention, reporting, complaints, procedure, and response protocol. Before you this evening is a draft for first reading, pending the board's approval of this for first reading. Next steps will include an information session for school leaders on November 17th, an overview of the draft policy at the November 25th staff meeting or the November 28th ED day, feedback from staff by way of a form survey by November 28th. Second reading would come to you on December 2nd. Then a broader public consultation by way of spotlight story and form survey for then the third reading anticipated to come on December the 16th. This timeline ensures that staff are aware of expectations detailed in the policy and have an opportunity to ask questions and contribute. And I would be happy to answer any questions that you may have.
So the recommendation then, or that the motion reads that the following policy and administrative protocol reviewed by the Policy Review Committee receive first reading and be further reviewed in committee and brought back for second and third reading at a future date. Policy GBEB staff interactions with students and administrative protocol. I need a mover and a seconder, please. Trustee Bjornson, Trustee Walker. Questions from the floor, group? Trustee Bjornson?
Not about policy, but about procedure. I understand that the Canadian Center for Child Protection works with a lot of school divisions, and it's very for teacher candidates to take the courses that they offer. Is that something that Louis Riel is currently doing? University of Manitoba is requiring it of their teacher candidates. We're working on it right now at the U of Winnipeg, that it becomes a course requirement through the Canadian Center for Child Protection. Because if we reached out to them, they would gladly partner with the division to make this part of the program.
We have two, like respect in schools, one thing, but I think you might be talking about the Commit to Kids.
There's a few programs that Canadian Center for Child Protection offers.
Yeah, so we do respect in school, of course, but we also do Commit to Kids for specific play groups. Yeah.
Trustee Semenyola?
I guess my question is, maybe this is, you have to forgive me if it's captured along some of the references that we have here. What's prohibited, like prohibited conduct kind of governs what, like it states what would happen while at school or at home, is trips or outside of a school setting highlighted in a different in a different policy? Like a reference not going to inviting or allowing students to visit staff's home. Is there anything around in a travel setting, or is that covered under a different policy?
We certainly have our field trips policy that talks about field trips. And certainly field trips to employees' homes or cottages are not and have not been for as long as I can recall. I think what you may be referring to is in this prohibitive conduct, it's sort of wanting to ensure that teachers understand that they cannot, and all staff, that they cannot target particular students for special influence and invite them into private settings like their home or other types of one-on-one after school hours activities that could be viewed as a means to grooming and other activities.
Okay, so I think what you're saying is that that piece is covered under a different policy and it's not meant for this one.
I think you will see in the admin protocol, it's quite specific around limiting that type of interaction.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions? Seeing none, all in favor?
Yeah, I vote yes, sorry.
Okay.
There, it just,
That's coming.
Any opposed? Trustee Nordheim? Lost trustee Nordheim.
Yep, sorry, I
that's
can't
okay.
seem to click on it. I apologize, but I vote for.
Okay, and the motion's carried then, thank you. Okay, that takes us to correspondence. We have received correspondence, general correspondence. As you will see there, some was alluded to already, the invitation from the St. Vital Museum. The second set is information that we've sent out, so that would include the letter we talked about last week or last time to Councillor Santos, and a letter to the selection committee of the Winnipeg Foundation community grant program in support of CJS. And then the Manitoba School Boards Association has also sent out correspondence. You'll see information there related to some lecture series and some PD opportunities and executive highlights of our last meeting, and of course the monthly bulletin. And we will archive all of those unless anybody had any questions on anything in particular. All right. We have no action items tonight, so that takes us to public question period. This is an opportunity for folks here and online to ask any questions of clarification of anything that was in the agenda tonight. Let's start with folks online. I don't see any hands up, but would I be able to see them?
No,
No.
there's no hands.
Okay, thank you. Folks in the room? Any questions?
Question statement, if I may.
Question? This is Ina, just to be clear.
Absolutely.
This is an opportunity for questions about item on the agenda.
Absolutely. I
Okay.
fully understand, Sandy, but understand it's difficult to make it just a very, please be assured, this is respectful. You have no concerns. So my question actually is about the public question period itself.
Okay.
And so I first wanted to congratulate Trustee Bjornson on your successful election. For those of you that don't know me, anyone online, my name is Ina Prokipchik, and I wish to address how community can participate in the agenda item, the public question period. And, I'd like to acknowledge LRSD has a reputation for being a very progressive school division. It does a lot of things well, but I think it does fall short we are falling short in engaging participation in our public board meetings. So I guess this is my overall question. Does LRSD's protocol to register for the public board meetings unintentionally contradict the spirit of the Public Schools Act? Allow me to elaborate. The LRSD website states the Board of Trustees values public participation in board meetings. Yet LRSD experiences very few in-person attendees and most often little to no questions from online attendees. Why is that? Because there are some barriers to registering and attending the public meeting.
So Ina, you're drawing a good
I have a couple recommendations.
commentary. Well, this is for questions. So can you repeat your question and I'll do my best to answer it?
I'd like to continue to frame it if I may, Sandy.
Well, like, this is not really anything that to do per se with the work that we've done tonight and items on our agenda. So
Actually,
if you can narrow it down to, like, at the beginning, you posed a question,
Yeah.
you can repeat that, I'm happy to answer it.
but I don't know that you can answer it if I don't understand the full context.
Well, you talked about public question period, and now you've moved into registering to
Well,
attend
because it's all
meetings.
tied in, like, it's brief, like, it really winds down with some recommendations, and it's really to foster some discussion for you and your team.
So I'm
and
gonna,
to make things better for community and everyone. It's just really about hopefully improving engagement. And
Okay.
you can take my recommendations for discussion in camera in future meetings. I don't expect an answer tonight. I'm really just trying to provide some fuel for conversation with
Okay.
you and your team, if I may.
all right,
Okay.
I'll give you that latitude, sure.
Thank you, I appreciate that. So here's a quote from Trustee Bjornson's campaign in the Winnipeg Sun, October 1. The most important role of a trustee is to listen. You didn't think I read that, eh?
I don't read this on.
Oh, you're funny. Okay, so then my question is, how can we give community an opportunity to be heard and our trustees an opportunity to listen? By opening up the meetings. In the Public Schools Act, states, every school board shall hold its meetings openly and no person shall be excluded or removed from any meeting except for improper conduct, forgive me. There is no suggestion in the Public Schools Act that board meeting participants must reside in LRSD. The directive is simply that every school board shall hold its meetings openly. These are my recommendations. I recommend the requirement to attend the board office or a school to provide ID to prove you reside in LRSD be eliminated. I recommend only name and email address be required to register for a meeting. This will result in eliminating the distinction between a general admission virtual attendee and a verified virtual attendee. This would result in only two categories: in-person attendees and virtual attendees. This would permit all attendees an opportunity to address the board in the public question period. So if this board is sincere about valuing public participation in board meetings, I recommend it's time we remove some of these barriers. And I will just say the caveat being, I do recognize several of these were put in place, to my recollection, 2 years ago, when you and your team were subjected to the hijacking of that meeting in June 2023. And I fully understand the fear, your personal safety was at risk. You guys were barricaded in this building, in this room. And I believe at the time there was a response. And I guess what I'm suggesting is, can we return back to 2023, when once upon a time the meetings to register, it was much more open. And I'm really trying to help, because I look at this is a large division. We've got 17,000 students. You have tens of thousands of taxpayers that you tax, and we consistently have Jay and team here, sometimes a few others in person. And I'm going to say limited online and limited with questions. So that's my recommendation. If we really want to have robust participation, let's take a look at some of the barriers for registration.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you for hearing me out, Sandy.
Okay. So that brings us to the end of our agenda. We are adjourned. Trustees, we have to go back in camera for a couple of things. So let's take a 5-minute break and resume at 8:10.